Diabetes has unfortunately become very common, and as you know, diabetes is a leading cause of serious diseases like heart attack, stroke, chronic kidney disease, peripheral neuropathy, retinopathy, and many others. So, and then, it is always good to prevent the diabetes rather than developing it and going for medical treatment, because despite treatment, complications do occur. So, in this video, I will highlight what are the things you can do to reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes. And I've classified them into three categories: parameters on the sleep, diet, and physical activity. So, starting with the sleep, what is known as the adequate or optimum sleep duration is useful to reduce the risk of diabetes. An optimum sleep duration is supposed to be 7 to 9 hours at nights. So in studies, what has been shown is that those who sleep less, that is sleeping for less than 5 hours, and those who sleep more, that is more than 10 hours at night, so both the groups have higher risk of diabetes as compared to those who sleep for optimum duration. Then second thing is the daytime napping. Short daytime naps are useful, which is typically less than 30 minutes, but longer daytime napping of more than 1 hour has been found to increase the risk of type 2 diabetes. And then during night, sometimes there is exposure to light, because nowadays we know that the brightness of the night is increasing because of street lights, and many times gadgets may be on or some lights may be on. So studies have shown that if there is significant exposure of bright lights during night time, that also increases the risk of diabetes. And the last point about sleep I want to highlight is the evening chronotype. So based on the sleep pattern, it can be classified into two patterns. One is evening chronotype, where people tend to be awake till late evenings or late night and then sleep until late. Other is the morning chronotype. So they typically sleep early, that is typically before 12 midnight, and then they get up early. So the evening chronotype person, where they tend to awake till past midnight and then sleep later, that is supposed to increase the risk of type 2 diabetes. Coming to the next part of my ways of preventing diabetes, it is going to focus on the diet. And diet is one of the most important aspects in order to reduce the risk of diabetes. In that, the most important thing is carbohydrate restriction. So that is, in our diet we have carbohydrate, proteins, and fats. So higher amount of carbohydrate intake will increase the risk of diabetes. Lower the carbohydrate intake, better it is. So that is one of the keys. And then if you look at some of the foods that provide high amount of carbohydrates, such as sugary drinks, so both sugar sweetened beverages like soft drinks or packaged fruit juices should be avoided. Same thing applies to sweets, chocolates, cakes, so they also should be minimized. If you look at fresh fruit juices, prefer whole fruits compared to fresh fruit juices also, because if you are consuming fresh fruit juices, you can likely consume more because it doesn't lead to satiety. Whole fruits lead to satiety, so you can't overconsume them. Among the fruits also, choose the fruits wisely. So there are certain fruits with higher glycemic index and certain with lower glycemic index. You can look at them and then choose fruits accordingly. Then about vegetables also, they are supposed to be healthier and they can reduce the risk of diabetes, but avoid or minimize the intake of starchy vegetables like potatoes, sweet potatoes, and like. How about the meal frequency? So what has been shown is that some studies they told you should have 6 small or frequent meals, but that is not a wise strategy. Having 3 meals is still the best. And then there are studies which are looked at breakfast skipping. So if you skip breakfast and it is not part of any intermittent fasting, then that increases the risk of type 2 diabetes, because it increases the risk of postprandial hyperglycemia. So blood glucose after lunch and after dinner is higher in people who skip breakfast, because people who skip breakfast generally they tend to snack in between, and they are the ones who can eat late at night also, it increases the risk of overweight and obesity. So skipping breakfast, which is not a part of intermittent fasting, is not advisable. When I'm talking intermittent fasting, definitely intermittent fasting is one of the useful strategies to reduce the risk of diabetes. But needless to say, it should be done under medical supervision of your physician and nutritionist. So that typically, if you restrict the eating window to less than 10 hours, so that has been shown to reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes. So eating window of less than 10 hours, which means fasting of 14 hours or more. And then one more thing is snacking, because nowadays it's common to snack in between meals. But as you can understand, snacking in between meals will also increase the risk of type 2 diabetes. So this much about the diet part. And lastly, I will talk about the physical activity. So physical activity is also very important to reduce the risk of diabetes. In that, there are two main parts. One is the aerobic exercises, which includes brisk walking, running, cycling, swimming. So that should be done for about, say, 300 minutes or more if it is mild physical activity in a week. And if it is moderate to vigorous physical activity, then recommendations suggest that 150 minutes or more in a week. That can be done either during the weekends over 1 to 2 days if you are busy throughout the week, or if you can get time, you can split into 4 or 5 days in a week. The second part of exercise is strength training. Now that is also useful to reduce the risk of diabetes, because once you build up your muscles strength and muscle mass, then the glucose utilization is much better, and then the conversion of glucose to fat will also be minimized. So it will reduce the risk of adiposity, weight gain, and which are useful for reducing the risk of type 2 diabetes. Other small tips like walking after meals. So just a short minute of 5 or 10 minutes leisurely walk after meals will reduce the risk of postprandial hyperglycemia, and also it improves the HbA1c status. If you are sitting for long time, such as work involves sitting for 8 to 10 hours, so during that time, if you can get up for 2 to 3 minutes, say every 30 to 45 minutes, and go for a short walk, or if you cannot go for a walk, just beside your chair, if you can do 10 squats every 45 minutes. So in studies, those strategies also have been shown to reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes. And then, so these are some of the things. And also finally the sitting time. So because work involves sitting, and sometimes leisure time activity also may involve sitting and browsing on the net, watching TV. So the total duration of sitting in a day, if you can keep it to below 10 hours, it can be offset with other physical activity. But if someone sits for more than 13 hours, even 1 hour exercise cannot negate the cannot balance the negative effects of sedentary lifestyle. So in summary, if you look at the parameters of the sleep, good sleep, healthy diet, and regular physical activity, these are the three main pillars to reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes. Obviously, these are all general advice. For your proper advice for yourself, for one individual, it is always good to discuss with your physician, nutritionist, and physical fitness trainer. I hope you found useful. If you have any comments, please get back.